Hi. So I wanted to do a video discussing grief and how it's a very individual thing. Sorry about that. How it's a very individual thing to go through, and how that no one can tell you how to feel, because that's just idiotic and stupid in my opinion. So let's get to it. This is my experience. I'm going to tell you my experience and then my thoughts on it. So my family split up in 2000. The year 2000, February 23rd or 24th, something like that. 23rd or 24th of 2000, my mom and I left my father. I was like 17 and a half, a little over 17 and a half, and we left my dad for very good reasons. I'm not going to go into detail, but it was important reasons, I mean, it wasn't just a fight or anything. And so we had been estranged until 2011. My brother had already moved out at that time, but he had stopped having something to do with my dad too back in 2000. Okay, so in 2011, I started talking to him on the phone. The rest of the family wasn't talking to him, just me. I talked to him up until last year, fall of last year, and I stopped talking to him because he was just so negative, like, I don't know. He was living a very negative life, and it frustrated me, and honestly, frankly, it really annoyed me that he wouldn't help himself. He was so hell-bent on being very negative. But he also had mental problems, so keep that in mind. None that he ever got help for either. So anyways, the point being, he passed away May 29th of this year, 2013. And, I didn't know how I was going to react. Honestly, I had thought for years that I would probably kind of like breathe a sigh of relief, because like, we always worried about him coming around our house where we live, because where we live, he knows where we live. It's a family home, it's been in the family for years, so yeah, we were always leery of that. And now we don't have to be leery of that anymore. And you'd think, okay, you're gonna breathe a sigh of relief and that's it, right? When you've had that, I don't know how to explain the experience, but you know what I'm saying, like, if you get the drift of where this is going, yeah, you'd think that, right? At least that's what I thought. And it was totally the opposite. I mean, yeah, well, I did breathe a sigh of relief in that aspect, not having to worry anymore, but that he wouldn't come around, or that he would come around. I mean, you know what I'm saying, like, worried that he would come around, yeah. I gotta quit saying I'm what I'm saying. Anyways, point being, so, as I was saying, it was not like that at all for me. It was quite the opposite. It was devastating, honestly. Like, I guess somewhere in the back of my mind, I had hopes that my father would change, and he'd somehow get better, or maybe get help or something. I don't know. It was stupid because he never saw himself as having a mental problem, so he was still in denial, I think, of all that. Only thing he ever owned up to was his depression. So I don't know, but everybody has a hope that if they have a parent like that they'll change. I mean, that's just, you can't help it. Even though it's more than, 99.9% never going to happen, you still, there's always a little part of you that will hope, for a lot of people at least. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I mean, I've heard other stories. So, point being, I mean, when I got the text that from my cousin that he was in the hospital and he was really bad, I didn't know like how to take it at that point. Not until that same cousin texted me about 10-20 minutes later and tells me that my father had passed away. And I think it was like 10 minutes later, actually, because we didn't even have time to get in their car and like get started to the hospital that he was at, even, or nothing. And my heart started racing, and the next thing you know, I'm having to get in gear and take care of things, like, call the hospital, talk to the doctor that was taking care of him, and all that. And it was hell. Honestly, it was hell. So, I go through all this. We go and get my dad's belongings at the hospital, and we, sit in the room with him. I'd say our goodbyes. He was already dead at this point. He had been for a couple hours. He died at 11:40 p.m. on May 29th, and we arrived at the hospital at like 2-something in the morning. And it was so weird because my heart had been racing so fast. I mean, I was afraid I was going to have a heart attack. And my dad actually died from a heart attack, so it freaked me out, because my heart was racing so fucking fast. And I remember as soon as I seen him, of course I broke down and cried, like just sobbed. And then I realized once I stopped, sobbing so hard and was just crying, I realized, oh my God, my heart stopped beating so fast. And yet, even though I was crying so hard, I felt incredibly calm. It was really weird. Like, I guess seeing him calmed whatever it was that was going on in me. Whatever, I don't even know how to explain how I felt. I mean, I guess it was a form of shock, maybe. I knew he was dying. He told me the year before that he was dying. Last, months I was talking to him, he fessed up and he goes, my doctor said I need another, artery unclogged in my heart, and he's like, I can't do it because it's too risky, because more than likely I will die. So they're not going to operate. And I told him, I was like, I kept talking him down about it, like that he wasn't as sick, I was like, well, okay, this is how I put it. I go, well, you gotta think positively about it, eat as best as you can, try not to get upset and stuff, and try to keep your blood pressure down and keep calm and, things like that, and you might live longer, I didn't know that. I had suspicions that he was drinking again, because there was like a little period of time he was supposed to have not been drinking, because my father was an alcoholic, and I had suspicions he was drinking again, because he was sleeping for like, he told me he was sleeping for a couple days at a time, not waking up, for like 2 days at a time, not waking up, like at least over 24 hours, and I don't know how much of that was true, but I know that he wouldn't answer his phone for like 2 days. And when I'd finally get him to answer like 2 days later, after I first started calling, he would sound so groggy, like he literally just woke up. And then he'd tell me what day, he'd ask me, what day is it? And I'd tell him, and he's like, I've been asleep for 2 days. Like he was in shock that he'd slept that long and why he didn't wake up before that. But I'm gonna split this up into 2 videos. Be right back.